There we are. We're live. Hello, it's Monday morning. Oh my goodness, 9 a.m. We are up and at it with Chuck Marshall. Um, Hi Chuck, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, hell yeah. Thanks, Seth. It's great.
So, hello to everyone on Substack Live. Hello to everybody. Maybe this is a video you're watching on either of our publications and the podcast feed. It's just in your ears. Thank you for hanging out. We're talking to Chuck Marshall, who does a wonderful newsletter, and also you started a nonprofit
Yeah, yeah.
called Gig, right? What's that about? How'd that come about?
Oh man. So,
Is that
uh,
intertwined? Are those connected?
yes, they are. They are.
Cool.
So I've always been, involved in music and love music, and also love the visuals. So, sadly, the podcast folks can't see it, but behind me, I've got a bunch of posters that I love, and so I've always loved that. I've been doing concert photography for about 10 years. Um, so anyway, I love the visuals that are associated with music, but I always felt like those artists didn't get their fair share, their due. So that's where Gig comes in. Gig, the Art of Michigan Music, is uh, a nonprofit that we set up to showcase the visual artists in Michigan music. So these are the concert photographers, the graphic artists that create the gig posters, album covers, T-shirt designs, videographers. So we're hailing those folks, and we just started last year. Was our very first event, so it was 3 days last year. This year we're doing one day because it was kind of crazy to do three
I
days
bet.
here.
I bet.
But it's an art exhibit, a music market, so that the artists can sell their stuff. We don't charge any commission. Um, they get a table at the event space, and then we have some live music and education sessions. So talking about like last year we did how to get grants, how to do LLC, how to do some social media and branding. So yeah, that's we're doing it again this year, November 8th, in Jackson, Michigan. So if you're in the
Hmm.
Michigan area, come on out.
That is fantastic. What strikes me about that is like it's so easy to start out, like you said, you're a photographer, you're taking picture of bands, and it could just stop there, right? Like,
Yeah.
but you were like, no, this is there's so many people involved in this. Was that it? Like, let's bring this group of people together.
Yeah, I mean, years ago, I was well, I still play guitar, but not as much.
Hey, yeah.
I was a
Yep.
lead guitar player in a metal band in Michigan, so I was familiar with what it was like to be in music and local music. I've
Yeah.
always loved that. Getting back into photography um, allowed me to get close to the local musicians and really become part of that scene, which I love. And so, yeah, it was just about like I want to pull in all the artists that are involved with that. So the musicians, the graphic artists, the photographers, get them all together. I mean, because we're
Yeah.
really working together. The visuals
Yeah.
are such a huge part of the music. So I just thought, yeah, let's just do this and celebrate. Make because there's really great music in Michigan. There's really great artists.
Hmm.
Yeah, just want to celebrate it.
That's so cool. And like, it- have you noticed, speaking from the publicity side, I work
Yep.
with a couple of publicists over the years, 10, 11 years. Uh, but no longer than that on the editorial side. But like, have you found that since you do that and organize that, does that help with getting access? Or I'm sure you help each other like get access to certain events and
Yeah.
events, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's definitely paying off in the terms of being able to collaborate with the like different venues, different people that are involved in the marketing and PR.
Mm.
But it's really just really grassroots, like local music, right? So a lot of the, all of them pretty much are, doing it for the love of the music, and the same with the artists, right? They got a day job where they're doing, the graphic artists or the photographers are doing other things like wedding shoots and all this other stuff to make money, but they love music, so they do this, pretty much unpaid, right?
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so it does help as far as getting some access, and I'm hoping that as we get bigger and more people find out about it, they're just going to be like, oh man, I want to be part of this, and it opens up doors for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Because I write about like do stuff with other people because it's
Yeah,
a lot more
yeah,
fun
I
that
know,
way,
dude. Yeah.
And you're
Well,
doing it. My goodness.
well, I gotta give you a shout out because 2 years ago, I somehow stumbled upon your newsletter. That it was at that time I was the heavy metal email, um,
Which
and
had such a cool logo, right?
yeah, it was. And so, I was like, and I think you ran a class or did something on Maven for the
Mm,
media escape club, and I was like, this is so cool. So you were an inspiration for
mm.
us to move our newsletter over to Substack, and now we've got a podcast on Substack. So yeah, you've been an inspiration to me for sure.
Cool. That's so good to hear. Talks to the power of emails, right? Like,
That's right.
or putting stuff on websites.
Yeah.
That you didn't find me on Twitter. So
That's right. That's right. And it's
it
like
is
you said,
possible.
the power of the website, man. We've had Life in Michigan up for 13 years now. Just, trying to like grassroots get out there. And it feels sort of like a band, right? Because it seems like it's about 10 years for a band to like grind it out before they kind of get some notice. And the
Hmm.
same thing, we're finally getting some traction as far as people noticing who we are and what we're doing. So
Wow. Wow. And the website. What's the web? What?
It's it's lifeinmichigan.com. So all life
Yeah.
in Michigan, no spaces.com. And that's me and my wife Brenda have been doing that for 13 years. It's about life in Michigan, but primarily about uh, beer, local music, and travel in the state. So
Okay. Okay. Oh, so it's got the home state kind of
yeah,
vibe to it. I'm looking at it right now. This is great. Oh my goodness, this is great.
yeah,
Is this WordPress?
yeah. It's WordPress,
Yeah.
running Divi.
And okay, and then I see you have the sign up for our newsletter on Substack in the
Yep.
bottom. That's great. Yeah, I get a lot of questions about that. Like, how do I do a website and have an email address? Because so many folks like they'll have a Squarespace, which
Oh
lets you do an email list or another platform, but they're like, oh, how do I drive people to my do I have people sign up for that? Do I have people sign? And I always say sign up for Substack. It's the easiest way to get people
yeah,
signed up, really.
yeah. I agree.
How does that work? Do you see a number of subscriptions from that on your website?
It's primarily been through Substack or the email
Yeah,
sharing.
yeah,
But yeah, we do get some referrals back,
cool.
from people that check out because we're still like we haven't divorced ourselves from social media. We're still out
Sure.
there trying to share our stuff, but it's not like spending all your time trying to fuck around with that stuff. It's
Yeah.
it's more just like a necessary tool, I guess, as far as trying to, farm out some information and find out when events are happening. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's been, uh, somewhat adding to the email. Yeah.
Well, it's cool too because like if you are still on social media and you are the one seeking that stuff out, you can find the events, and then
Yeah.
you're putting that probably in the newsletter
Yep.
for the Michigan people and for everyone else to find out. So you're like curating kind of the event space. You're providing value in that way because a lot of people that read your newsletter might not see everything that you see on social media too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, and that's what I've been trying to promote is the fact that, and share this with other folks that are on social media. That's where their primary focus is. Kind of the gospel of Seth is for that's not where you should be spending your time, right?
Mm-mm,
You
mm-mm.
should be spending your time doing your craft and working on your art and sharing it the best way you can, which is directly to folks that care about it. So.
Wow. Wow, I couldn't have said it better myself. Uh, it's like you're reading something about this on a regular basis. That's rad. Um, so cool. I get to like I have been preaching the gospel of email newsletters for like over a decade.
Yeah.
I didn't take my advice, of course, but it's easy, but it wasn't until 2021 when I started heavy metal email. But point being, like, if you didn't start it 10 years ago, today's the best day to start an email
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
Um, and also, and you know this as well. I mean, it ties with music too. Of sending out a newsletter and like that first one's not great, but the second one's a little better, the third one's a little better. It's like writing music, right? Like the
Right.
first song probably not great when you're first starting out.
Yeah.
A decade later, it's probably going to be better.
Yeah.
So same thing with sending these newsletters, which is such a um, there's no shortcut in this. And so
Right.
tell me, like, because you've had this website for 10 years, or doing it for over 10 years,
Yep.
but you haven't been doing the email newsletter with it, right? For ten
Well,
years.
we had Mailchimp for a little bit that would
Okay.
just basically like if you signed up for our newsletter, it was basically like when we did a post, it would go out on email.
Yeah.
Um, but Mailchimp is sort of well, it is expensive, and we were. I mean, again, this is kind of a labor of love. We don't really make we make thankfully now through some subscribers enough money to pay for the website, right?
Right.
It doesn't really, keep us alive, but it's helping to pay for the art a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we had that for the longest time, and it was basically, I mean, really, I read your email about like using Substack and doing that, and I was like, and I was telling Brenda about it, and Brenda's like, "Oh, really? Do we, should we do this?" And I was like, "Well, it can't hurt, and it's cheap, so why don't we try?"
Yeah.
And it's been really great. I got to tell you, um, you know, there's still that kind of social media aspect to Substack, but it
Sure.
feels more collegial, more like a giving place as opposed to a taking place.
Hmm.
Um, doesn't feel like I'm, have my soul sucked out every minute when I'm on like Facebook or something else like that. To just, yeah, I won't get into that, but basically, we've had great response for our newsletter. So Brenda and I trade off every week.
Oh,
Brenda,
that's cool.
yeah, she did last week. I'm on deck this week, and it's funny. We're like Monday's like, oh, you're on deck for the next Sunday sip, and so you're trying to think of like what am I going to talk about? So,
Hmm.
but it's fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's great that you split the responsibility on that too. That's fun.
Yeah,
So you,
yeah.
do you in putting the newsletter together, and I'm still learning this too after all these years. Do you kind of just riff it? Do you just kind of run with it on Friday and hope it get to get it out on Sunday? Is there any process to it?
Uh, there's a little process for me.
Okay.
Well, so basically, we were thinking about like start of the week or even sooner, trying to think of like, all right, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to write about? And it's there's a personal essay, and then there's like we share some other stuff like a book review, or I'm typically sharing what I'm spinning on the turntable back there. Um, but I do have a little process, and then I try to again cultivate that event listing. So
Yeah.
I'm scouring Facebook to try to find things that fit into the things that we typically share. So beer, music, and the arts and travel. And so go through that, get that set up. Try to start thinking about some images I want to share because I have 13 plus years of photography. I
Yeah.
got I don't need Adobe stock or whatever. I've got
Right. Right.
uh,
Pexel. Yeah.
yeah.
Nope.
So it's kind of cultivating that stuff and then putting it together. But yeah, sometimes
Cool.
it's like right down to the wire. It's like
Oh,
Saturday.
I
It's like,
know.
"Shit, we got to get this done."
Well, and it's great too because like who your audience is. Like you're serving a Michigan audience and the
Yeah.
surrounding states or whatever. Like so it's so great to already know like who your reader is, like who the people that are signing up for this is. Like it really narrows it down. That's a good thing to have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have found though that through Substack that we've got folks that are not Michiganders, but they're
Hmm.
still checking us out and reading it, and which is quite it's humbling. It's like oh cool, somebody actually is caring about what we're doing in Michigan. We love the state, but it's cool.
Yeah, totally. For anyone that's joined in the last couple minutes, talking to Chuck Marshall here, and Chuck started a nonprofit that brings together photographers and videographers and everything in the music community in Michigan,
Yep.
and all to give a living, breathing example of the stuff that I've been writing about. Like, but you've been doing it for a while, and so we're celebrating that, like doing stuff together with other people. We don't have to do this alone. And I love too what you just said, like of you do the newsletter one week, and the wife does it the next, and that's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brenda takes it on the next week. Yeah, yeah. The gig, the Art of Michigan Music, is a new thing for us. Just started. I mean, I did an art show like that about 8 years ago, and people loved it. But it was just an art show, and it a couple years ago some friends said, oh, you should do it again, and so we did, and we last year was the very first year. This is going to be our second year. um, Tons of learning experience, but so rewarding to be able to like meet a whole bunch of awesome folks. Some of those folks I'd known and worked with, as far as photographers, but other folks I didn't know, and I've come to love what they do. And then it's really branched out so that we're trying to help connect like the music scenes around Michigan. So you've got Detroit area. I'm in
Mm.
Ann Arbor area. Jackson is where we've been kind of center of the state, southern, not center, center, but southern Michigan, and then Grand Rapids. There's
Mm.
in the north. There's Traverse City. But anyway, we've been trying to like link those up. So we've hooked up with some folks from it's Sounds of the Zoo over in Kalamazoo. There's Jennifer Westwoods. She's an artist in Detroit. She's a huge proponent of Michigan music. So she's been doing some radio shows in Detroit area and Radio Cobra and in Toledo, and I can't remember the name. Then there's local spins over in Grand Rapids. So we've been and
Mm.
the Music Alliance. So it's really been cool to be like just pulling all these folks in and getting to know them, and yeah, like you said, just collaborating.
As our friend Just Some Mustard chimed in here on the chat,
Oh,
shouting out the Boy Detective, a great ska band from Michigan.
oh, awesome, cool.
So
Gotta
I don't know if you've heard of them, but yeah,
no, no, I haven't.
there we go.
Yeah, it's great that I love it when people like say, "Hey, have you checked out this band?" Or when somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, we play X, Y, Z," and I'm like, "Oh, cool!" You get to check it out and share it with folks.
Yeah, so much of this too speaks to, not just for musicians. This isn't just for the music scene. This is art. This is photo. Well, it's
Yeah,
so much, but it also stresses like local. Like this is such a local thing. This is like consumes a bit of your day,
yeah,
week in and week out, and it's like just local. Like you're not trying to go viral for a billion people on TikTok and like try to
right,
make that happen.
right.
This keeps you busy enough, and you're just talking about Michigan. Like that's amazing. That's so good.
Yeah, there. Well, I I'm curious about how that works out in other areas, but we do have like I was saying earlier, just a huge amount of like great musicians, great graphic artists, great photographers. They're all like right here, and just like Mustard was saying, the one of the fabulous condiments in the fridge. Uh,
Yes.
was there's yet another band, and there's so many awesome bands. Like when somebody tells me like, oh, I can't find any new music, or I'm struggling to find some other band, I'm like, holy shit, you just need to like, well, one, get on our newsletter, but
Sure. Yeah. Sign up.
like, yeah, follow around. There's so much good stuff. So
There. Yeah. Yeah. It's again, as someone who works with publicists, record label. There's so much new music all the time. I joke with friends like because I've seen posts that say like, here's the top 36 songs that came out today.
yeah, yeah, pretty sick.
And like I know Brooklyn Vegan does a bunch of that. Like, here's the top 100 metal things that came out in the past 3 hours, and it's like impossible to keep up with. It's a full time job, and the people that are in it full time can't keep up with it.
Yeah,
So there's so much, and which it's like option paralysis. There's just so much that it's kind of like, well, I'll go back and listen to my old stuff.
yeah,
But like work that you're doing is like curation, which is so important. It's like the early 2000s of music blogs. You're curating, you're finding the music because people don't know where it is.
yeah.
It's a problem that hasn't gone away.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good problem to have, but yes, it can be overwhelming. And I think that's what I did when I was a kid, like just reading like magazines, like actual print
Mm,
magazines, like back in the day, Kerrang and stuff. You would,
yep.
I mean, that's how I discovered Testament, things like that. Cause I was like, read about this band and like, oh, that sounds cool. And you kind of find an artist that kind of, a writer or a photographer that kind of is on the same resonant, like, wavelength as you. And you're like, oh, I trust that, what they're talking about, and so I'll go check that band out, right? So at least it gives you some reference point that you can kind of search and find stuff that maybe is in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah. We got DJ Shotsky here, a wonderful friend down in Wisconsin that started doing learned how to DJ
Oh, cool.
polka records in Wisconsin. So great, so great. What a story. Definitely everybody on the call should check out DJ Shotsky. Asking, have you talked about connections to community or nonprofit radio this morning? We have not, but Chuck, I'm sure you can speak a little to that of community of. I'm sure there's some. You're a nonprofit, and I'm sure there's other nonprofits in your space that you talk to.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so I mentioned earlier the Michigan Music Alliance, which is on the west side of the state, which popped up during the pandemic, as a way
Mhm.
to support musicians. And so they're still doing really great educational programs for musicians to help, book their shows. So we've worked with them. They actually partnered with us last year when we did Gig. Um, there's Passenger Recovery, which is dealing with basically it's on the east side of the state toward Detroit, and they do things related to substance abuse for
Mm,
musicians and things like that. So, yeah, we've been trying to reach out. Sounds of the Zoo is not a nonprofit. Now I take that back. But yeah,
it's all right.
definitely like hooking it up with like local radio as well. There's
Yeah.
a bunch of those out there that are still doing their thing, keeping it real. So
Radio is still. I keep seeing more and more people saying as they're like leaving Spotify or they're trying to ditch streaming platforms and stuff like that, is listening to more local radio.
yeah,
Or even like we have access to every radio station in the world through
yeah,
some
yeah,
sites, So yeah, radio is still a viable thing. Like again, it's curation and but it's also community because you have people like running those things and
yeah.
talking in between songs. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a great one. It's called Sonic Coast. Um, and yeah, they came out to gig last year, but yeah, again, they're curating music that's about like Michigan, and then around, also nationally, but they're also like, doing a focus of that, of the local music scene, which I think is cool. The more avenues that you have for getting that out there, the better.
And so much bubbles up locally.
Yeah,
Like as a musician, as a photographer, whatever, definitely as an artist, as a band or whatever, like building that fan base in your area, like that's huge. Like to try to get X amount, 20 people to a show on a Tuesday night, like that's a
yeah,
major feat,
yeah,
And
yeah.
holy crap, if you could do that, you're on to something. Because there's artists out there that have 100,000 Instagram followers and can't do that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's great when I see a local band just killing it, where they're pulling in either drawing for a national or just putting on local shows. We got a guy, Chris, who's in a band, awesome punk band called Mazinga, and
okay,
uh, so Chris has been in the music scene forever, but he does this festival. It's going into the 10th year, and it's called
whoa,
Fuzz Fest. It happens at the Blind Pig in Ann Arbor. And if you love like, garage rock, punk, maybe a little metal and some really experimental stuff, that show is it. It's 3 days, like, and tons of local bands. It's awesome.
yeah, that sounds so great. My goodness. Again, just local. Like without the local, like that's where the smaller, the younger bands like cultivate and grow and someone stays in one of those bands for 10 years or 20 years and
Right.
then later like some of us get real jobs or whatever and do this on the side,
Right.
that's how I got my start, I saw all my rock star friends doing their things and I wasn't going to be a rock star, so I started a music blog in 2001. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But to be involved again, I just think that to be involved, to be like part of something, part of a scene locally, or to start a music blog, or to take photos of bands
Yeah.
and put them on your website and stuff like, or yes, it's so important, and that ecosystem is what is just so needed right now as we get away from social media, because where we used to just try to be part of a community on social media
Yeah.
and get 100 likes and now it's 3 likes, that can feel, not
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I think as we like kind of turned the corner on a lot of those things where it was all virtual, I feel like we're coming back to things that are physical, right? So
hmm
the actual collaborations where you're with somebody, or like what we're doing, you're talking to somebody on the phone, just having a conversation.
yep.
I think those things like zines, coming back, that physical media, bookstores, man. Some of the independent bookstores are doing fabulous, because people want a physical book and to see an author, right, and talk with them. So
Yeah.
I think that's coming back. I'm super happy about that.
Yes. I've oh, we'll have fun with this one. James Dallman, do you think the music has improved or degraded since the old school days? Music is awesome all the time.
Yeah. Well,
That of Yeah, go ahead and take that one.
I would I would say that it is just as awesome as it was before. I So one case in point, if you're into like thrash metal and you loved Exodus back in the day, there's a band in Detroit called Convulsus, and it's like Exodus reborn, right?
Yeah.
Um, Taking that same kind of level of energy and stuff, and like repackaging it. Yeah, sure, some of the riffs maybe you've heard before, but it's still awesome. Yeah, I think if you're I think like we were talking earlier, it's just saturation, right? Now instead of everybody, the mixtapes they had in their bedroom where two people would hear it, now everybody can hear it, and
Yeah.
yeah, that stuff sucks, but most of it is awesome. So
Absolutely. I mean, of course, like when what was it, 1992, when Rage Against the Machine self-titled came out, and
yeah,
like I think it was one of those where like in the same week like something like that came out, and Pearl Jam and this amazing, like I can't even remember because there was so much good stuff like
yeah,
Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Nirvana. Like, of course nothing's going to feel as magical for me now that I'm pushing 50,
yeah,
because I was in high school. Everything was, hormones and rock and, caffeine. Like,
yeah.
so, but yeah, there's still so much amazing music. It's funny. I live in a college town, and I heard across the street the other night. It was like a Friday or Saturday night. Some guitars. I was like, what? And there was an actual band playing in one of the houses here,
Oh,
and they
awesome.
were and they were playing Even Flow
Oh,
for Pearl Jam.
yeah,
Like that song came out a minute ago, and
yeah,
like they were playing it across the street. So I don't know. I think, yeah, another part of the music that comes out today too is like that we might not resonate with. It's not made for. Usually, it's not made for us.
right, right.
It's like these
Yeah,
kids are making music for kids that come to their shows. Like, and to your point, does it maybe like snag some stuff from influences like Exodus or Dillinger Escape Plan or this that? Of course it does, but
yeah,
we did too.
yeah,
We ripped plenty of stuff off. So,
yeah. Yeah, we ripped off
um,
Black Sabbath.
still ripping off Black Sabbath.
Oh,
Yeah. Good band to rip off.
yeah,
Oh, I love it. Yeah. So bringing the people together, I love it. Good music everywhere. Find the people that are curating the good music. Just be around. One of the greatest things is being around some good people that can recommend you albums here and there. That's the
yeah.
greatest way to find music. So,
Oh, yeah, for sure. And yeah, there's like you said, there's the nostalgia for when you were a kid, and some of those bands are still around, crazily.
hmm
But yeah, there's always great new music you can get into, and yeah, I love it.
yeah, yeah. Just looking through the chat here. I think we're gonna wrap up. This is a fun little, yeah. Some great new bands and musicians for sure. What's interesting is new people returning to the '50s and '60s route. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Cla- The old stuff, yeah. I said something the other day, like someone was like, oh, what's old is new again, and no, what's foundational endures.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good way to put it. Exactly.
Like that stuff that resonated back then. Yeah, it's gonna come back because it plain even flow across the street.
Right. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So, James, thanks so much. Do you have a party? What's going on in your world this week?
Oh,
You have the event coming up again in November or something like, right?
yep. November 8th, over at Art 634 in Jackson. That'll be the next gig show. In the planning works right now, trying to figure out which bands we'll have. We won't have as much music as last time, but get the artists figured out. I got Jacob. So if you don't know him, artist to look up is called. His name is Jacob Rosenberg. He's out of Detroit, and he's going to be doing our poster. We have one artist to do like the gig poster, so
Cool.
he'll be doing that. But yeah, as far as this week, we've got. So I'm going to see Brant Bjork and
Mm,
a couple of local bands, Carbon Decoy, awesome band, and Slumlord Radio. They're opening up, so I'll be in Grand Rapids later today to check that out. So
that's so great. Cool. Local, do stuff with friends, do stuff with good people, like, and just keep rocking it out. Like,
that's
that's
right,
so
man.
great. Cool. Love it. Chuck, thanks so much for hanging out. It was good catching up on a Monday morning with you.
Yeah, man.
Everybody go subscribe, check out the work he's doing. A lot of people in the comments are like, Chuck's doing the real work. This is great. Yeah. So
Well, thanks, Seth. I really appreciate it, man.
absolutely be in touch. Take care.
All right, brother.
Bye.